Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Still Life Day 1 demo. So for anybody just popping in here, what we've been doing starting this week and moving through the end of the month is it's a culmination of what we've been doing during the quarantine and the stay at home. And I'm demonstrating basically all the principles that we've been talking about and practicing all year. And on these particular ones, what we're seeing at this point, we've already done a month of color on all of the reference images, and we've done a week of composition. So we don't have to think about that too much. I'll remind you a little bit about what we're doing, but we can really just jump in and get to work. And I'm doing a little less step by step and more to how, after you've done the study, how you can approach the painting. You don't have to worry about working these problems out because you've solved them. And you can worry more about the problem of making the paint beautiful on the canvas while you achieve everything we tried to achieve in the color study. All right, so let's see here. Miss Susan, good morning, good morning. Good to see you. Be a couple of minutes late, but you're here. Well, good to have you. Good to have you. Okay, so if you guys will recall, we'll move these for just a second. Move these for just a second. If you guys recall, the still life, what we thought about is coming in here along the table, coming up and back around. So as I've worked on this a few times, I got rid of the side of the table, come in here, and then give that a little, again, just a little roundness. We can let this table be kind of spotted with the light. As the light comes around, then we're going to have all the activity of the pear and all of this stuff happening. And we got the silver dollar eucalyptus leaves up towards the sunflowers, which are going to do a little dance and song for us before we get back to the silhouette. We've got a nice strong hold here with the vase. And then the background and the table in shadow, along with some of the sunflowers in shadow, are going to be our hold, our number 3. Our number 3 value that will hold our light. Well, it's the in-between value. We'll have these darks there to hold the light, but those are going to be closer to like black. And what I'm going to do then is we're going to have black, and some of my shadows will be black, and then like the shadow of the fruit and the shadow of the sunflowers will match the value of the background. And that way we can serve our values, and that light will sing and dance. Again, we've already went through all of this, so I'm not going to go into it today. I'm going to stay more in paint mode. But what we found out is this was really about color, because this color is pretty complicated. Pretty complicated. So let's start with talking about the color and getting some of that mixed up. Good morning, Katie. Good morning. Good to see you. Good to see you. Miss Cindy's here too, so she can help field questions and stuff if you have them. Part of what I hope you notice about this morning, if you've been able to catch all week, is we're going to start this a bit differently than we started the others. Right? Your starts when you paint aren't always the same. Oftentimes it depends on what problems we're solving or what is the problem. And in this one, a big part of the problem is separating all those warms. Yellows, oranges, and reds. So I'm going to start by getting some general piles mixed up. Then I'll go back and begin my lay-in with something more neutral, but I don't want to stop once I get going And I know I'm going to need a little bit of color, so I'm going to go ahead and have that ready to go. That's the plan. That's the plan. So what do we have here? We have Cad Yellow Light. I have Cad Yellow Deep. You might have Cad Orange. All good. Cad Red Light. Yellow Ochre. Burnt Umber. White. Again, I got the good stuff here. This is the Cremence White. Use titanium or flake white. Especially if you're just learning, I wouldn't recommend. It's just too expensive. If you've got the means and can afford it, go for it. But it's not necessary until you really know how to use it. Ivory Black and then Payne's Gray. So this is all about warm against just a little bit of our cool, right? Let's see what we can get into. So in this scenario, we are going to have a good solid black to hold on to. So Ivory Black, but again, to make sure it's not dead, that it's got some life to it, I'm going to add just a bit of warmth. Got to be careful, that Cad Red can be powerful. Can be powerful. So do a little bit at a time, because I want a nice solid dark anchor here for this one. So one thing we didn't talk too much about during this, but one of the big differences between all of these things that we're doing is going to be the measure between our value piles, right? The moonscape will be one way, the still life will be one way, and the portrait will be yet another way. So that you need just a few solid values doesn't change, but the space between those values, that's so much more where the art actually happens, right? It happens first in learning to simplify, the simplification, and then two, in managing the space between the simplification or the simplified values. So where are we going from here? Well, here's where we get into our shadow, our background, and our tabletop in shadow, right? We want basically all three of those to be the same value. So do you guys remember how we separated that? Well, we let the shadow flowers be the warmest, have the most color so that it has the most. Since these are going to be the same value, we still need those flower shadows to come off of our background. Then our background's going to have more warmth to it, have a little bit more transparency. And our table shadow will be a little bit more solid and have a little bit more of a gray. So if that sounded like gobbledygook to you, well, keep your eyes peeled, because we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So these are warm. Warm. I want to come up a good notch from there. But I have to save room for my light. Things are sliding around on me. Have to save room for my light. And then my highlights. So just thinking about a general warm value. Trying to get there without adding any white. So the burnt umber and the yellow ochre. I can almost think about that as my base here for this value. Almost, let's not almost anything. Let's think about this as our base for these runs. How about we just make some decisions and do it? Huh? Put our big boy pants on or big girl pants on, whatever kind of pants you got, or pretty little dress, whatever. I'm just saying, own it. Own it, own it, own it. Okay, so that's a nice little jump there, and that's going to enable that to feel really dark and heavy. And then the idea is for then the other shadows and background to have more of a sense of light. Okay? My idea anyway. So how are we going to get most up here? Well, I say we do it with red and the Cad Yellow Deep. Okay, so that's a really nice warm about that value. And how did I get that? By adding a touch of those two to my yellow ochre. So what's in here? Umber, burnt umber, yellow ochre, touch of Cad red, touch of Cad Yellow Deep. So there's no white at all. Okay, now we need to separate the background from the shadow. So how are we going to separate that background from the shadow? Well, that background needs to be basically all warm too. We may grade off a little bit, but let's think all warm right now. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 warms to choose from. We've already used those two in the mix. So now we have 3 warms to choose from. We put those 2 in this pile. So wouldn't it make sense to get the most separation? Well, let's see. Let's see if a little sense is what's needed here. Can't guarantee it, but hey, it's a good place to start. Okay, and somehow this feels lighter than that, doesn't it? Okay, so did you guys see how I made that decision? It was very, very practical. It's like, I need these separations. They need to be at the same value. They need to be warm. So we come down to what we've used and what we haven't used. Right? That's so much easier than thinking, oh, what's that color and what's that color? And no, it's more of this, it's more than that. Because we're not trying to match. We're designing, we're creating. We're making artistic decisions. Because we put on our own pants or dresses or whatever we put on this morning. Our Zoom pajamas. I can relate to that. All right. Let's see. So we've got the tabletop in shadow. And we said that was going to be the most. And then we need that to be transparent. And then this needs to have a little surface. And be the grayest. So what if I take this and this. And then I can take my cool and take it to the right value. Or I could literally just take a little bit of my black and adjust it to about the right value. Okay, so There we have it. Okay, so remember that when you're doing color, at first you almost have to painstakingly slow down, but eventually you'll be able just to feel your way into it. Susan and I had a nice little discussion about sometimes some of us have words that are, you know, certain meaning, like, don't say that, don't say that. For some of us, that word feel, especially like feel into, can be off. But we're not talking about emotional feeling. We're just talking about opening and watching, right? So it's just less of an intellectual exercise, and you're going to start to get a response, like a nervous system response almost from these things. Is that too spooky? Is that too ooh-ah? Sorry, guys.
I don't think so.
Went a little California there. All right, let's see. Where are we going? So we've got our dark. We've got the basis of our flower in shadow, our background, and our tabletop, all in shadow. So then that brings us to our light. And here again, we've got all kinds of warms. We've got the tabletop in light. We've actually got no background in light, do we? But we have the pear in light. We have the sunflower in light. And then we also have the leaves in light. So as I light this up, I'm going to think about what I already have down here. So the flowers had the most chroma. We decided on that. The pear was the brightest, had the lightest, had the most white in it. The sunflowers are going to be a slightly darker, richer value. And then the tabletop is going to be the grayest of them all. The grayest of them all, and perhaps the darkest. We'll have to see. Again, it's not going to be a single note for even the pear, the sunflowers, or the tabletop. It's going to be a run. Remember our color run exercises? I think those are still here on YouTube. We had a whole month last month of color mixing exercises. So I'm not going to run through all that again. But that was enough of an explanation to buy me a little brain break so I can get back over to my lights. So let's not go crazy. Just be cool. And why don't we call that the base? Just like we mixed the two of those for the base here. We'll let yellow ochre be the base there. And then the other thing about this, if these are lit, they're going to have a certain amount of white in them. So the pear is going to be the lightest. So let's have the most white there. And then both of these are going to fall behind a bit. Both of these being sunflower petals in light, tabletop in light. So let's find again the measure between the values. What's the first rule of color? Value first. Value first. That thing keeps sliding around on camera. I feel like I'm coming in for a home run slide. Here we go.
It's just a teeny.
Woo! Cindy's birthday was yesterday, so I'm still a little crazy from that. Like, we went out to dinner and everything. It was nuts.
We saw people.
It was nuts. Okay. you know, that gives us a lot of elbow room. And if you know me, I like some elbow room. I like my elbow room. Leave some options open, especially this early in the process. So we'll set that over there. Then we want this to be a bit darker. And then also the most colorful. Okay, so we've set that up, and yet there's still plenty of room between this and any of that. Okay, so this is a minor change compared to that change. One of my first teachers would march around the room. Compare, 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 relate, relate, relate. Took me a long time and a lot of thinking to figure out what that meant, but turns out he was right. Turns out he was right. Where's this? Well, we don't know yet, so we probably want this to be, this is going to be the grayest. So let's just think about this in a way we haven't quite thought about it yet, but it's very easy to do. That represents sunflower. That's going to represent the pear in light. And this is going to represent the tabletop in light. What do we want to come forward, not just picture plane, but aesthetically? Aesthetically, we want this to come forward. And then, what do we want to see next? Well, technically, this is forward. This one right here is forward. But we're going to be on the tabletop. There's no reason to call them there, right? That's where they're going to start. We've already got them there. The pear's the most. We've got them there. So I would suggest next, as far as aesthetics goes, we want to go to the sunflowers. So when I look at these colors, I try to think, okay, if they're in a race, which one hits my eye first? Which one is advancing more quickly? If you just look at what we have here, I hope you can see white always wins. Boom, boom, boom. And then the lighter we go and the more colorful, the brighter we're going to go. Can you guys see how these are going to jump out over those? And can you see how that's going to just really anchor that whole thing? Okay, so this is supposed to anchor. We need a little float in here, and we need some dance in here, right? And then, I don't know, a drum solo or guitar solo or something, right? Just something to top the show off. All right, let's get to work. But again, this is the start of this painting because it's so much about color, right? So some paintings are much, much more about drawing or about size and placement's always important. But this one, color's a huge factor. So let's slow down and get off on the right foot on the color. So sunflower petals, I bet we could make that a bit more colorful. Right, it's going to be more colorful. You already did. Well, let's do it again. Come on. Where's your sense of adventure? Right, because we could make that rich. We can get it rich. That camera, am I shaking the cameras? No? Okay.
Nope, no earthquake.
Alright, then how are we going to grade this off? Let's take our black. Get some white. Let's get some gray. And again, this is forward, so it can be a little darker. Might have a little bit more substance. I'm not showing up. Let's see. There we go. Yeah, hopefully you guys can see that. You can see it's subtle, but it's working. Then it's just a matter of how far you want to push it. All right, then where's our highlight going to go? Or a highlight should probably go with this family. My off screen. Okay. So let's take the white out of here so we can get a right, we already starting to feel pretty good with this quote-unquote harmony, even though we haven't developed it very far yet. So now, I think it's time for us to turn to the canvas. And what you're going to see, I haven't decided. You know what we don't have? We don't have our leaf and light. Let's see. So I guess I'll have to put that right here. And our leaf and light, I'm going to do Payne's Gray. But look how I'm going to keep it involved here. So the black had red in it, so it's not completely isolated from this group. And then this Payne's Gray, why don't we volunteer some yellow ochre there? Okay, so everything has warmth in it. Everything. Even, how does this have warmth in it? Because this black had a little red in it. Was that like karate? That felt like karate. That felt like really good.
You drop it down.
Karate. Okay, then, wait, what? So what's from here? Well, we forgot to light it up. So we got it related, but now we need to get it to these other values, similar to these other values. Not yet, Jason. Keep going. Hey, I was just taking a break. Man. All right. Okay, so that's starting to feel similar to this grouping here. So how many values we have? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 values set up. Okay, but before we go crazy with all of this, we have to pump the brakes and come back and do our size and placement. All right, yeah, look up every now and then, Jason. Look up every now and then. We missed Reenie. Good morning, Reenie. Oops, did I miss it again? There it is. Good morning, Reenie. So if you've come in late and you're going, whoa, whoa, what's all of this color mixing? Each painting we start sometimes requires different things of us. And this painting is so much about color, the still life, and these little subtle color shifts on the warm side that we had to look. It's 8:30. We've spent half an hour on that, right? And again, we weren't trying to be exact because this is a lay-in. We're just trying to get going. But the better we make this lay-in, the easier it's going to be and the more fun it's going to be when we go to painting next week. Came in at 8:03. All right. So I think Reenie's saying keep going. I've heard it. I've heard it. Let's go. That was for everybody, Reenie, just not you. Not picking on you. All right. All right, so we need a camera change. Why don't we start wide? Oops, I hope I didn't mess that up for all time. And where did all my brushes go? I thought I had my brushes ready to go. All right, so this is a number 8 on a 8x12. This might even be a little bit small, but I don't want to get anything too small when I start. And let's remind ourselves what we're doing here. We're going to be covered in shadow, right? Which is our number 3 value, which is along there. Right. Around here, we're going to have our anchor, our dark, anchoring this thing, and holding our light, which we're going to use to take them through the canvas. Okay, so this is the big overall journey, but we know we need a bunch of subtle things happening here, right? So we're going to be a little calmer, not so crazy up here, right? A nice slow, maybe even push this back a little bit, because we're going to be so active after we get here that we need a little space for some downtime, you know what I mean? Just so everybody needs to sleep. Everybody needs to sleep. And then even though this is going to be pretty colorful, we're going to wind it down and end up with just silhouettes over here. And again, this isn't just for your benefit. I mean, it is for your benefit, but I actually spend a lot of time before I put my first mark on, just kind of feeling everything out, getting a sense of it. Right? Because if I slow down, we can do cooler things. We can do funner, cooler things. So the big pair party is going to happen where? Where's that big pair party going to happen? I'm thinking about right here. If that pair is about right there, then that about right like that for our dark. Maybe. See, rather making the darkest mark I can up here, by making a mark I can barely see, that's actually more freedom. It's freedom to find this space, find where we're going to put this in this space rather than be dictating. Right? It's more of an open stance. More of a watching, of a listening. Push out, so we can start in the center and push out. I'm already thinking about what's going to be open, what's going to be closed. Thinking may be the wrong word. I think thinking is the wrong word. Just being aware. And then if we got, where's our party? Where's our party? Right, so this eucalyptus leaf is related to that. Right, and also the other eucalyptus leaves that'll be up here. So the question is, how far over do we want to bring them? And how high up do we want them to be when they do that? Well, we don't want it to be even with all of this. That's going to kill our movement. Right? So much of our, so we've got this going really strong. And so we'll repeat that by pulling them far out over here. Right? So much of this is more about aesthetic balance than any technical kind of drawing skill, really. That'll be a hard edge right there. Soft edges here. So we're always working the whole thing. So if we're saying this, then what are we going to say up here? Alright, so we've taken them side to side. Okay. Cool. So now, if we've got that here, where do we want to enter this painting? Well, let's enter down below this. Alright, so I'm just thinking about my shadow here. Or how I'm the riverbank for this light that's going to run up this way. Light without shadow doesn't exist. Think about that for a while. So what's beyond light and shadow? Non-existence. How are you going to paint that? So I don't know. Maybe we went a step too far. Or can you portray non-existence beyond light and shadow? Right? What and how you paint is determined less by your skill and more by the questions you're asking and problems you are solving. Right, Sen?
Right.
I love that woman. I love that woman.
The right question is the answer.
That's right, baby girl. That is right. Now I could leave this open. I hadn't thought about this, but we'll see, right? And so as a thought, let's just leave that because we've got our main guiding post, right? We don't need to put a choke chain on them and drag them through. Just let's relax a little. Let's relax, man. Enough stress in the world. Nobody wants to buy stress and put it on their wall. So we can't be all stressed out while we're doing it. I don't think people are going to buy your stress. They'll sell you stuff for your stress, but they won't buy your stress. Again, we can do this because of the study we've done. Right? If you don't do the study, if you haven't worked these problems out, if you don't know where you're going before you start, oof. Oof. That's no place for artists to hang out. That's where all the artist demons are. Right? That doesn't mean you just sit there. You study. You do sketches. You do color studies. You play. And then once you've got an idea, you've got to develop that idea. And you develop that with more play, with more color studies. So that when we get here, we can play some more. Come on, let's play. You guys are working too hard. A lot of us that are drawn to painting, it's because it is that lifelong challenge. right? It's those things that can never be mastered, but we still have to know. So I don't know. I mean, I like to hang out in that kind of space, and painting has always proved fruitful ground for that. It's just about as soon as you know, man, whoop, ground is pulled out from underneath you. But, right, it's just a mirror. The only thing showing up is what you're putting down. So the question is, start thinking about it like, what am I putting down and why? What is causing me to treat paint like this? And how might I treat it differently so that my canvas can look different? Let's see. There's a glare problem in here. Sure, none of you guys ever have glare problems. If you're sitting there waiting for me to get done with this thing today, you're probably going mad about right now. Sorry about that. But remember, the stuff you don't see is the hard part. And if we don't take our time and do this, guess what? You're going to see this. And this is what I want you not to see. The stuff you don't see takes longer. Which, until you're onto that game, watching somebody paint what you don't see can be a test of your patience. But once you realize that what you're missing is not knowing how to paint what you don't see, anybody can paint what you see. But then the question becomes, well, how much is in good taste to show? We won't take that analogy any further. We'll just leave that analogy right there. Which medium? Yeah, so we're using, it's pretty flat in here. Let's see what we can do. So there's a close-up of the canvas. And just so you can get a sense of scale, there's my finger out of focus. Let's see if we can do this. I bet you we can do this. What do we got on here? We got a number 8. I got it. There we go. Okay, so this is the bottom. So we're really, really, really thin right now. And I'm using the Merager medium. You can use some oil, but the other reason I can do this is because this surface is so well prepared. Right? This was a very fine surface to begin with, and it was prepared and painted on, sanded down, prepared, re-sanded down, and prepared again. And that's what you're seeing. And on a properly prepared surface, a little paint can go forever, right? And that's part of what we'll be covering in the 3-month course, and part of the reason we're slowing down to take 3 months is so I can walk you guys through how to prepare your paint surface so it'll take the paint. All right, let's see if we ever get back to normal now. This is where most of my life goes these days, focusing these cameras. Let's see. I'm getting better at this. How's that? That close? That looks pretty good. All right. So yeah, this is the Merager medium. Again, it's It's a little bit more expensive. It does contain lead, but as long as you don't swallow it, put it in your eyeball, you're going to be okay. But if there's kids around, stuff like that, you got to be extra careful about that. All right, can we go back to, will things ever be the same? No, they won't. They won't ever be the same. Boom, boom. And what are we doing? We're doing sunflowers. See, what time is it? It's 8:51. It's about break time. It's about break time. So why don't I fix this since I broke it? You broke it, you buy it. Well, why don't I just fix it? Let's fix it. The problem with the gesso board, is they're sponges. They just soak all of this up, and you lose your freedom to move paint and open edges. Right? When you see these beautiful soft edges and everything, these things just melting into one another, it's because it's on a good surface. These boards you just buy and paint on, I don't even care if they're the good ones. Like a Raymar, I've painted on Raymar quadruple primed linen. Those still need to be prepared. It's reason that not very many people paint like the old masters, because the preparation involved is just a little over the top for most people. And you know, commercially, I don't know that it really pays, but it's the right way to do it, and the paint is just magical when you're working that way. I mean, near to far on the stain of the canvas, guys. Closed and open edges. Right? And I'm not going to do it because you saw how much work I took to get here. I could literally wipe all this off so none of this would be seen right now. But if I came on and tried to put a bunch of thick paint, this wouldn't work. So for most people, they think this surface is too slick. But if you realize oil paint's not supposed to be a painting done in 3 hours, and you're willing to put on a first layer, which will make the surface more sticky, which will grab the paint in later stages. And if there's other pieces in here that's still paper thin, well, what's going to happen is this part of the canvas is going to start taking the paint differently than this part of the canvas. So with each step we go through, what happens are these things become more and more and more and more and more different. Because each time you're doing the same thing, you're making this transparent and going away. And you're making this a dark silhouette. Each of those have different qualities. And every time through, if we reinforce those qualities with the right material and the right understanding, it is unbelievable the dance you can have with oil paint. So Claudia's sorry that she ever asked. Sorry, guys. A little excited about this stuff. No, this isn't about getting on anybody, but it's about realizing, oh, I can't do it like that. So if you've got not such a fine weave or what you're going to have to do is use more paint, right? And so at that point, you can't be putting out little bitty dabs of paint. You've got to be putting out those big clubs of paint, because basically you've got to lay the paint down to slide into, because the canvas is so rough, you can't slide into the canvas. Okay, so you have to adjust how you work. And that's why the only way to learn oil painting is to learn to be aware of what's happening as you do it and why it's happening. Because there's too many variables to say, oh, do this and you'll get that. It's not that easy. You got to be involved. You got to be involved. All right, I think I need a yogurt and a break. So how does 5 minutes seem pretty fast yesterday? Should we do 7 minutes today?
Yes.
7 minutes today? Did we have a countdown?
Find your little clock back.
What's that?
Find your little clock.
Well, there's that. Oh, look, and there's that. Be back in 5. All right, guys. So we'll take 5. Impact. Ah, Claudia, you're awesome. Thanks. No, I'm glad it made sense, because sometimes we just have to keep hearing this, and then as we see it and hear it, oh, the reason I don't get these soft edges isn't because I'm doing the wrong thing, but I'm working on a different surface than he is. Well, your awareness grew a little bit. But right now, my stomach's rumbling, so I'm going to get yogurt. You guys stand up and stretch and be fresh, and we'll be back in just about 4 minutes. Whoops. Mama says 7, so we'll see.
Oh, sorry.
Alright, that yogurt was a little too good, I guess. I guess that yogurt was a little too good. Alright, how's everybody doing? We're doing okay? Alright, so as you can see, it's not a fast process. Right? There's certain parts that go quick, and kind of the candy can seemingly go quick. But if we take our time from the beginning, this is where the finish happens right here. You can't just run through this and then how do I finish? You finish right here. Right? You finish as you go. Like the way you work on this will be the finish. And that's a hard concept to understand, especially until you have experience. But yeah, finishing is an interesting concept. All right, so where do we want to go from here? Where do I want to go from here? Just going to have a little thunk here when everybody gets back in their seat. You know, at some point today I would like to kind of nail this down, but I'm not quite sure we're there yet. I think what I might do at this point is jump to the other end, meaning put down where I want some of my light. Like leave my light path on there, and then see if things need to be adjusted. Why don't we do that? Doesn't that sound like fun? I can hear everybody yelling right now. You guys are loud. You guys are loud. All right. Is everybody happy with this view? I think this is the best view. I think this is the best view.
Claudia likes it.
Okay, so we're gonna get a different brush. A different brush. This looks good. Okay, and what I'm gonna do for my light right now, because it's not a good idea to start getting a bunch of white paint everywhere, but I do want to be able to see where I want to go. So I'm just going to use some yellow ochre and see if that works. Alright, so if I stay with my decision that we're there, forward, we talked about that having a gesture over like that. Okay, and then we're going to come up, and the question is, where do we want to hit that top light? And this is so heavy that I could actually have it up here, which I think is cool. So I think if that was about there, that top light would be something like that. And then this one could spill over from there. Like that. Alright, we got our greenery working down. And then from here, we want a lot of this lit up down to probably there. Back to here. So you see how I continue this pat through the pear? That's where movement comes from, right? These things, just all life is sucked out of them when we work from here to here and close it off. we've got to show something that's larger than the individual, right? We need to show a larger string or pattern going through, right? People need to see that, right? They're uncomfortable if they don't. I can't tell you how often people have come in going, you know, I'm uncomfortable because I don't see that. It's never happened. That's never happened. But it should. No, it shouldn't, because if it did, then I'd probably be out of a job. You wouldn't need me to show you these things. Okay, so also we're thinking about the nature of the movement. Right? So this is going to be more of a relaxed kind of ambiance. And this will be kind of a little bit sharper staccato. Not machine gun staccato, but just more than this. Should be a song. More than this. Is there a song like that?
Not yet.
Oh, you're going to write one for me? Right, and then this sunflower, I'm going to put all in shadow here, so that's not going to be included with this. Sorry, guys. Not your day. Not your day. All right. Let's see. Is it time to make some things invisible? Huh? Should we give the invisible man a call? Let's see. Ooh, this is a fun looking brush. All right. If you can't have fun, why are you doing it? Come on. Come on. Come on. All right. Everybody okay? So hopefully you realize this isn't going to stay. It's just leaving the breadcrumbs. Leaving the breadcrumbs. But right now, I'm going to close in up around the breadcrumbs. Okay, so the shadow of the table. Again, this is a lay-in, so I'm not trying to get things perfect at this point. I'm trying to set things up generally, so when I come back ready to paint, boom, I can start that much further down the road, that much further down the trail. Okay, then that's going to be about right there. And again, these colors and stuff will be shifted later. One of the reasons they can be so strong up here is because look how thin they're going on. Right? And that's, again, where's the most going to happen? Well, we want that most to continue over here. Maybe some shadow there. Remember, the soft edges are the hard part. So if there's any little white spots or anything there, just take them off. Wow, huh? Isn't that amazing? Look how much is there already. And there's hardly any paint on here. Telling you guys, if you do it right, if we do it right, but me included, nobody wants to slow down and do it right. It took me almost a couple of decades to go, okay, I'm gonna have to just slow down. But hey, it takes what it takes. So we might be tempted to go develop something or fix that tabletop or something real quick. I think a better plan would be to get that dark in there solid. Right? Kind of, I think one of the best things that we could, well, do is not necessarily finish everything, but get some certain things in their places. Right? Then next time when we come with full energy, we can, okay, we've got that locked in, okay, let's really work out from there. So, I'd like that vase, I would like that vase to just grow up a little bit. You know what? At some point in your life, mister, you've got to take responsibility. Right? We all need an anchor. So we got to give them that anchor. So that's going to come down there. So that's going to put that shoulder where? Where's the shoulder of this thing going to be? This isn't the 100-yard dash. Nobody's got a stopwatch. Oh, look, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gotta be careful. All right, so we'll have to move that around. It's getting a little bit too predictable there. Too predictable. All right, let's see. Is this thing getting too big? See if this comes down. Across. Cut it here. All right, so now we've got a couple of things we can push against. We need to have things we can push against. Notice I didn't freak out anytime things didn't line up or anything like that. All right, rather than these completely lining up, I'm more concerned with the design that I have here. I don't know if I want that headed straight down. That wasn't the plan there, but we'll adjust. We'll adjust, because I don't think I want that bigger than that. I don't know that I want it that big, really. Oh, what do I want? All right, but now is the time to decide this. Now's the time to decide. Because that's appearing entirely too large in my mind. Why are you so big, man? Why do you want to be like so egotistical, like take up all the space and everything, suck up all the oxygen in the room? It's not cool. That's not cool. Or could simply that over to there, and that would go up there. This would come back down through here, and this one, let's see, so that's going to go like that. Right there, guys, that's the advantages of a good canvas. I just got a do-over. For free.
Woohoo.
I just got a do-over for free. Cindy likes nothing better than a do-over. Because I need them so much. Because I need them so much.
Makes a difference on the canvas.
Heck to the yeah. And then what's this little party boy doing over here? What's this little party boy doing? Oh, I guess a lot of this is some of that shadow, huh? Some of it, a lot of it. Okay. All right. We're still going to close in a little bit here. But let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. melting pear. Alright, getting distracted. Getting distracted. Let's go, let's go. Only 40 minutes left today. Come on, man. Alright, so let's think about this, huh? Let's think about that. We got that coming down. Oof. They're saying I'm being a little not too manly here. A little. That flower's got to be bigger. The painting is aggressively demanding it. Remember we talked about the invisible stuff? So important. So important. What's not important? What is important? I mean, really. Because the painting's going to show you. The painting will show you if what you thought was important is important. Or what you thought wasn't important actually is important. It turns out the paint just does not care about your deadlines. It does not give a flying hoot about your deadlines. Or it doesn't care about my deadlines anyway. Maybe it does care about yours. I don't know. I'm having a hard time. Alright, we got a little invisible going here. Right, the idea, especially in this first pass, is you don't want to leave anything that needs to be covered up. You want to try to make things quieter and quieter and quieter so that when it's time to make some noise, the people can hear you. So a lot of people come in and, I mean, I know I did, just assume that all that noise is the painting. You know, the painting is more about what you put down to make that noise sound however it's going to sound. And again, in case I have to move things around, that way it's a little darker, a little richer. I'm not protecting sunflowers at this point, or the first mark I made. Right, I don't want to go destroying things on purpose, but you can't be protecting your lay-in. You're never going to get to the finish with the finish that's worth getting to if you're protecting your lay-in. All right, so I'm pretty hot. So if you guys have been around, you've noticed that it seems like, man, why is it so dark? Well, on Masterworks this week, we talked about how Rembrandt would set his darks down and then literally pull and stretch his lights into those darks. But the darks have to be there to hold the light. And you want them down first so that light can lay on top of that darker stuff. Did that sound good, Sin?
That sounded great.
Wow, that's good.
Dramatic.
Did the hand movements work?
Yes.
Excellent. Man, I rehearsed those for about 7 weeks. 4 times a day. It was brutal. Okay, so I'm about ready to wrap it up. Before I do what? What? Well, we've got every value on there except our highlight value. Highlights, they're such special things. Such special things. Yeah, that's probably enough. Going to redraw some of this here, and as that cherry gets in there, that'll look better. but take the run, because what if you get it wrong? Well, the sooner you get it wrong, the more time you have to correct it, right? Say, heck yeah, that's right. Heck yeah, that's right. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. I'll say it.
Heck yeah.
And I'm not going to. Let's see. We still got a little time. I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. I don't like to commit on like major, like where things are gonna go too early. And I don't like doing it later in the sessions if I'm tired, because those are the big things. So what I might do, so let's just soften some things up and make sure we don't have a bunch of hard edges everywhere. Alright, we don't want a bunch of clotted paint. We can come back and get this, but if we need smooth paint, we don't want a bunch of texture in there. We don't need smooth paint. Maybe we do want texture. But we don't know what we want, so we want to leave our options open. And the other thing about doing this is that if I do have to cut over with other paint to carve into, when there's no edge there, it'll be a much cleaner, easier to do that. Okay, so as a reminder, Friday is Friday feedback. So that'll be in class. We'll do that live over the Zoom. And so if you got started this week, get it in and we'll talk about the starts. It'll give us a chance to look at different ways to start, and maybe I can offer some tips or suggestions. Or if you feel like you're stuck or want to know if this is right or wrong, quote unquote, we could talk about that. We could talk about that. Yeah, Rini, so do the size and placement and the lay-in. Like, you might even want to, just with burnt umber and Payne's Gray, kind of decide where you want things. If you need that. You know, since I've studied it, I know I don't need to come in there and work on that, so I did the color and everything. But you can divide it into size and placement one day, and then kind of the color lay-in another day. Whatever you're comfortable with, Rini. If you think you've got it and you want to get some color in like this, go for it. Go for it and send me a photo. Let me see. So, tonight there will be Sketch Club on Facebook at 7 o'clock. And then tomorrow we will be off. No programs tomorrow. And Friday we'll be in the Zoom on our live thing for Friday feedback. Okay. Then next week, we're going to do this same schedule, but it's going to be day 2. Monday morning will be portrait. Tuesday morning will be landscape. And Wednesday morning will be day 2 on this. And then we'll have our evening programs back to their regularly scheduled timing next week. I think. I always hate to say it's going to be this way because I never know. Right? We make these plans and things change. Things that are way out of our control change. But again, I don't want white there. I can delineate. Hard edges are easy. Soft edges, not so much. The sooner we can get rid of them, the better. Just rid of edges. Right? Now we need some for structure. You don't want to go softening everything up. But again, we don't want razor sharp edges everywhere either, especially if we're not 100% sold on exactly where something is. Give yourself a little bit of elbow room. Raise or lower that. Take it this way or that. Yeah, I think that might be my start for that one. I think that might be our start for that one. Does anybody want to fight about it?
No.
These long days in here by myself, I gotta start, you know. The debates and arguments that happen in here, woo! But we only let that occur when nobody's home. So, no, I'm pretty happy with, again, we've got the board closer and we've got our general concept down. Now, if you're looking for things and finish, you're going, what? But again, if you understand that you've got to have something down so that this looks like you want it to look when you put it on top of it, then I'm hoping you can appreciate that a little more. And I still feel everything's loose enough that I can get wherever I want, yet I've got enough direction in here that we're going to be starting further down the trail when we come back. Okay, so if you guys dig this, if you dig it, can you dig it? August, is it 2nd, baby?
Yep.
August 2nd, we will be having our 3-month course beginning. And it's basically, it's the wonders of oil painting. We're going to go from beginning to finish. We're going to begin on preparing proper surfaces. If you spent some good money and have some good boards, some of these boards are over 10 years old. 10 years old, but old paintings, they would come on, sand down, covered it with some white. Lead white's the best, Crements, flake white replacement or whatever you got. Then sand it down again, and then when we stain it, and that's how I was able to just completely wipe that one section off with no residue left. Right? But at the same time, it's not going to take thick paint at this point. But if we work the paint, we can build it up. Okay? All right, what else do we have? Baby, did I cover everything?
You got everything.
We cover everything. Susan, everything's good? Susan says it's good. You are very welcome. Very, very welcome. All right, I think with that then, we will call that a morning and be back this evening for Sketch Club. And then we'll see you guys Friday morning. So get to work. Get to work. Take advantage of this, guys. Take advantage. This is to be able to see somebody and get this kind of feedback on your paintings. Never in my life did I have anything like this. So I hope if you're in class that you will take full advantage of this. And if you're unable to paint because you're traveling, tune in because you can learn a lot from the critiques. All right. Love you guys. Thank you. Say goodbye.
Bye-bye.